All right, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting for the Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation Committee meeting. There are no decisions made at this meeting. This is an opportunity for the community members to bring up issues to discuss, and mostly a chance to participate more with the ANC and have discussions going and ideas flowing and stuff like that. I am going to go ahead and paste the agenda and previous minutes in the chat so that everyone can refer to them. We have 4 agenda items today. The first agenda item is continuing on from last meeting. We'll talk about the restoring secure bike storage lockers at the Cleveland Park Metro. The second agenda item is advocating for the Circulator bus to not be cut, so opposing the proposed cuts in the mayor's budget. The third agenda item is continuing the discussion of the service lane that was started at the Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee meeting. And so that's the third item. That's the third item on the agenda that we'll do today. And then the fourth item that was proposed was thinking about a Bikeshare station close to Cleveland Park Metro. And then we might move this, but I'm also adding 34th Street traffic calming, as that was also requested by the community. So we'll hopefully get to these items as needed, and can move the order if needed later on too. Is there any other agenda item that anyone would like to discuss or add to the agenda? If not, what I will do is I'll start by actually an announcement. So we'll be hosting an event with an external speaker, Beth Osborne, from Transportation for America, and she's offered to come in as an external speaker. She's an expert in sort of the area of transportation safety, and she's very, very kindly offered to come in and talk to us about transportation safety in our neighborhood. That's her profile, and I'm going to be putting the link to the registration in the chat as well. Again, this is not meant to be a public ANC meeting. This is just an event that we're hosting an external speaker. So again, no decisions will be made at this event. And we're hosting this in person in the library. We unfortunately cannot offer a hybrid option. So you can register at the form link that I just put in, and then we'll follow up as the event gets closer. So this event is scheduled to be on Saturday, April 29th between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So that was the first announcement. I encourage all the members of the transportation community to attend if they can. I think it'll be a fun event, and a chance to engage with an expert in the area. Members of the community obviously also as well. And then great. So someone just messaged in the chat. Matthias said that they have one more item they would like to. So what is the item that you would like to discuss? Please feel free to unmute or type it in the chat.
Yeah, hello, Commissioner Siddiqui. My name is Matthias Eller, and I would like to discuss, the bus line, the 33 on Wisconsin Avenue,
okay,
which, is just amazingly unpunctual, unreliable. We are getting a pitiful service there, and I wonder what can be done there. I'm basically at my wit's end already for many years. But it's really not something nice to live with, a bus which is consistently unpunctual. And Metro basically doesn't care, I think, and because essentially you can take the pandemic as a controlled experiment. There was essentially no traffic, but you would still observe bus bunching and not adhering to the schedule. Also, it's for me not understandable that where the line starts in Friendship Heights, buses don't leave according to schedule. They leave whenever they want, sometimes already as a 3-pack. So, what's going on there? And I wonder whether you as ANC commissioners have any way of getting anybody from Metro maybe to discuss this issue one day.
We as ANC commissioners always feel like we have, we only have limited power. We've always tried for this. I can give you an example. When the L1 bus line was cut, we actually organized a petition. We delivered the petition. We passed a resolution. We asked WMATA, how do we advocate for this to come back? And we did everything they asked us to do. And the bus line also never came back. So bus timings have been an issue as well that we've discussed improving. I think when we get to this agenda item, we can come up with a strategy for that and then see where we can go. I also just quickly want to comment that Wisconsin Avenue, it might be useful to also engage ANC 3A because that's the ANC that Wisconsin Avenue passes through. And so I can also give you the contact for that ANC as well. So when we get to that agenda item. So I propose that we discuss it right after we're done discussing the service lane. Commissioner Packets?
Thanks.
Yeah, real quick, if we don't get to it, I just want to mention that WMATA is going to be issuing their Better Bus Plan on Monday, which will be open for public comment. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if this is part of it, but I know it's coming.
We can also, like, as an ANC, comment on the Better Bus Plan as well. Once it comes out and there are things. So please, if you do look at it, anyone here, if you do look at it, let us know and we can write something up if needed as sort of a more broader advocacy. Thank you for bringing that up. That's the exact type of stuff we want to talk about. So let's talk about it a little bit more detail a little bit later in the evening. Anyone else would like to bring up anything? Okay. Wonderful. So with that, we can go to our first agenda item. This is requesting the District Department of Transportation and Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority restore secure and smart bicycle lockers to the Cleveland Park Metro Station. The resolution more or less looks the same as presented last time. We just added a lot more citations to the resolution, and I'm going to paste that in the chat too if people want to look at it. We added a lot more citations to the resolution. We also stressed that we wanted smart bike lockers because the bike lockers they used to have, they weren't smart lockers and they were rented on an annual basis and they were never used, because no one wants to rent a bike locker annually. It's much better if it's like a smart locker that people can just lock in and lock out and use for hours at a time rather than rent out for the whole year. So we added some citations, some evidence from other cities and things like that. But other than that, not much has changed from last time. I don't think there was any sort of major comments last time, but we're hoping that this passes on Wednesday. For those of you who aren't up to speed on the bike lockers, what there used to be safe bike lockers at the Cleveland Park Metro. They were removed without informing the community, and then WMATA destroyed the bike lockers. But now they're apparently ordering new ones, but they're not sure if they want to put them back in Cleveland Park. So this is an opportunity for us to say that please restore them because that'll be good. So anyone have any comments or anything they would like to discuss on this issue? And it's okay, we don't have to discuss it since we did discuss it last time. Are there that's a great question, Greg. So the Bikeshare station, so that's actually the on the agenda now at number 5. And so what happened with the Bikeshare station was when construction was happening for the Macklin project, the Bikeshare station was moved from in front of sort of the Macklin building, which was Newark and Connecticut, and moved towards the library. So there's actually the Bikeshare station is pretty far from the Metro now. And I actually got a request from the community to think about having an additional bike share station north of the Metro for people who arrive, sort of from north of Cleveland Park or and can easily drop off, because a lot of people do ride their bike down to the Metro and then get on the Cleveland Park Metro. So it would be easier if there was a bike share station right there. Like right now they have to come all the way down to Macomb Street, drop the bike off there, walk back up to the Metro stop, and that just adds an extra level of commute. All right, Ryan is supportive of an extra additional station to have at the Metro. So this is great. Yeah. So it's since we are discussing that is on the agenda today. But it's good to know that if people do want to pursue this, that's something we can pursue as a community. Yeah, Warren, you're on mute.
Sorry. On the bike share station issue, very quick. I've been pushing this I'm not sure if it's in your SMD or Gowan's, but there's at the top there. I saw it in the design concepts, but then they never implemented it. On top of the Klingel Valley Trail, like where Moray traffic comes out, not Moray, Wist traffic comes out, kind of on Klingel. There's an obvious place for a bike share station there. It's a no-brainer. And I've already raised it with someone at DDOT, but I didn't really get much of a response. It might have more meaning coming from you or this committee. I can send a map of the exact place, like a little screenshot. I can put that in the chat. But it's basically, if you've ever taken the Klingel Valley Trail, just where the traffic from Wist exits. Is that your SMD or would that be Gowan's? I'm not. It's kind of on the border, I think.
I think it might be mine.
Oh, yours.
It's actually
okay.
Yeah.
Yours. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I'll put something in that. I'll see if I can do a little map of where I'm talking about. But if we're doing resolutions about bike share stations and ANC 3C, it would be a great one to do. Especially because like around there's big distances, like there's nothing basically between Wisconsin Avenue and Connecticut Avenue. This is like halfway. It's a good 3/4 of a mile away from where you're talking about, like at the Cleveland Park Metro station, say. There's no bike share station close by.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be great. Maybe we can do a comprehensive one. And then Commissioner Nash, you had a question about if the reconstruction plans for Connecticut Avenue sidewalk indicate any locations. Not on the streetscape. I haven't seen it there. Commissioner Pagets, I don't know if you've seen anything. I haven't seen it on the streetscape or on any of the proposals about the redesign of the Connecticut Avenue either.
They are there. They're in the kind of more technical construction documents.
Oh, okay.
It's fairly easy to request like additional bike stands where they're needed, like the racks and stuff. DDOT is pretty responsive and comprehensive about getting those where they're needed to be pretty quickly, relatively.
Yeah.
I think, the more bike stands, the better. I just didn't know whether they were contemplating moving any because, as I recall, the old locations might have been a little bit tight for pedestrians. And so maybe they were just reworking the locations, but hopefully something pretty proximate to the metro station.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is our chance to kind of weigh in, and I totally agree with you. I think that we want to make sure that they're placed in an area where they don't conflict with pedestrians and at the same time are close to the metro. That's actually one of the things we do ask in the resolution is that DDOT, when they do come back with the bike lockers, they do actually work with the community to figure out the optimal location for them, rather than just come place them wherever they want. The bike lockers definitely, like, if we don't advocate for the bike lockers, there are no plans for them to come back. So, right now that's at least what we've heard from WMATA.
But with the bike share stations, I think there is opportunity to, like, especially with the cutout that allows for more pedestrian space at Ordway, the quote unquote Ordway Plaza in some of the renderings. I think that, DDOT could look at that as a possible location for the bike share stations. Just require a bit more infrastructure than bike racks. So yeah. I think they should work in concert with one another and the bike lockers as well. So I think the ask should be in the same resolution.
Okay. Cool. Wonderful. Any other comments about this one? All right. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So the next agenda item is the Circulator bus. And I'll kick this one off. Commissioner Geis wrote this resolution, and she's not here today, so I'll kick it off for her. But then if anyone, especially if any of the Woodley Parkers want to jump in and add to my limited knowledge, that's fine. So in the latest mayor's budget that has come out, the mayor has proposed eliminating the DC circulator service from Woodley Park to McPherson Square. This is probably the only way to get from Woodley Park to Columbia Heights, right? You know, I know for those that live quite up north, we can take the H2, H4, but if you're in Woodley Park, this is the only transit available for you to go to Columbia Heights area. And so it's also, Commissioner Pagas, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the second most used circulator service in the city.
Yes, it's the second most popular route out of the 6 lines in the district. It's not the only way that you get to Columbia Heights, though. But it's one of the only have the L2 and this route from Woodley. And
or you could be like me and take the metro and not realize that you could take the circulator.
Right.
Yeah. But it's the only route to the central business district, essentially.
So what is the rationale for eliminating a second most popular route as opposed to, if they have to cut something, taking the lowest ridership line?
I can answer as to what I heard from the oversight hearing from the DDOT director on Monday, because that question was asked, and Councilmember Allen was very confused as to why you would eliminate the second most popular line. It seemed like they needed to cut 3. And one of the lines, because the National Park Service gives us like $1 million to run the one on the mall, that one couldn't be eliminated. The Georgetown line is the most popular one, so obviously we're not eliminating that one. And then I got kind of lost on the rationale for like the reason of keeping the third one that they're keeping. But yeah, that's an excellent question, is literally what is the rationale? Because it's not ridership.
Was it not about the price of electric buses, or was that just like a rumor?
No, that wasn't the issue. It was the operation maintenance of the current fleet of buses that they have.
Yeah, I also feel like that is kind of an excuse, because these are two different parts, right? Like there's an infrastructure budget and there's an operational budget, and what's the other part? Like these are two different things, right? Like buying buses is different than running a bus service. I guess Ryan was right. The electric buses were part of that. So, but yeah, I always get upset when cities say stuff like this, because it's, budgets are made in total, and you can shift money around towards priorities if you want to. It doesn't have to be that like, you can only have one of two good things. Wonderful. Any comments or edits or suggestions on this resolution? Is there anything we need to work through for this one?
I'd also like to note that a number of the ANCs that this line goes through are going to pass a resolution like this or very similar to, because it's frustrating for all of our constituents and residents to not have access to this route.
Would anyone from the community like to comment as well? Yeah, I didn't imagine these first two were going to be points of controversy or long discussion. But good. Okay, so we can move with those. These will be voted on at our next meeting. One of them is on the consent calendar. Commissioners, just forewarning, I'm going to ask that this one also be put on the consent calendar, and you can decide to not do that if you want to. But since we have such a packed agenda anyways, I'm gonna propose it, and then if people want to discuss it, we can. But hoping that everyone is okay with putting the circulator bus on the consent calendar too. Cool, wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Nash. All right, great. And so now we get to the discussion of the service lane. So I'm going to give a little bit of an intro, and then commissioners or whoever was at the last meeting, if you would like to add any else of the history, like we're basically continuing the discussion. So the service lane is, as you know, it's undergoing construction right now. I took a cool photo. There's like putting a pole. There was a machine. There's some type of something putting a pole in there, and then but it was putting it in the wrong. I don't know what it was doing, but it's getting to the point where it's getting close to completion, and it's pretty interesting because I had bets with people if it would be done by May, but it seems like that might happen. So one of the things is that as the service lane construction is being completed, there's been questions from the community about what the future of the service lane would be. We got approached and emailed by a lot of people thinking that the service lane was going to remain closed to cars because that's what happened during the pandemic, although that was because of the social distancing rules, and then construction started. And so, there's been sort of community input into the chance of doing that. There's also been community input to open it up to the way it was pre-COVID, where we allow parking at all times. And that was the plan. That was the original plan when the service lane construction project started, was to be able to have parking in there, and have parking in there, but also like close it down for events and stuff if needed, because it was elevated to more of a pedestrian plaza type place. And then there's also been some suggestions of thinking about maybe perhaps a hybrid approach, where we allow parking during the day, where we might have less pedestrian during weekdays, where we might have less pedestrian traffic and more car traffic, but shutting it down evenings and weekends. And then that way, at least like when we need streeteries, when children are out of school and they need a place to walk around and run, there's a place for the community to get together post work and stuff like that. So, and there's obviously other ways we can think about this too. I can tell you one thing is that we've also been communicating with with Fresh Farm, that will be sort of organizing the farmers market. And they want the farmers market to be held in the service lane, primarily because of space reasons, and they want to expand and have like a much nicer, sort of bigger space to have it than it was when it was on the east side. So thinking about at least like how we can have the farmers market there, I think is great. So that's kind of the history. We don't have to, again, we don't make any decisions at this meeting. This is, again, a time to hear from the community. We've had one public meeting where we heard from the community and had discussions on it, and today essentially we're just giving more opportunities for people to comment, people to have discussions, ask questions, and things like that. So I'm going to pause there, and I guess commissioners or anyone else who was at the first meeting, if you would like to correct if I said anything wrong or like add to what I said, please go ahead and do so, and then maybe we can open it up to have people comment as well. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Paggett.
Yeah, so I also just wanted to note that the service lane only contains, in its current redesign, it would be about 20 parking spaces. Parking stalls are 19 feet by 9 feet. So that's a pretty significant amount of space. Additionally, there will be still parking on Connecticut Avenue. So there's also the opportunity to reconfigure what those spaces look like with the signage and having pickup and drop off and handicap reserve spaces on that frontage strip of Connecticut. So there's that. And I feel like I was forgetting one more thing.
Actually, you reminded me of one thing, which is there's also opportunities on the side streets. So like right on Macomb, having sort of dedicated pickup drop-off spots there as soon as you turn into like Macomb and Connecticut, instead of like long-term residential parking there, you have pickup drop-off and, quick sort of spots there. So that also, I mean, I feel like regardless, whatever happens with the service lane, I feel like we should advocate for those anyways. Like, I think those would be nice to have either way, whatever we decide on this, because like it is much better I think for the businesses, if we have quick turnaround spots that turn around quickly, rather than spots where people just park all day and then there's no chance for anyone else to use them.
Yeah, and the previous studies from years ago found that like 66 cars jostled through that lane in a 2-hour period, where 661 people on foot are using that space in that same period of time. So those are pretty startling numbers, in my opinion. But yeah, we're open to all of the inputs.
Great. Warren, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I mean, Janelle, what you're saying, wouldn't that argue for not allowing cars at all in the service lane? I mean, I'm not asking innocently. I don't see this plan for cars there as a great thing. But I mean, if there's overwhelming numbers of pedestrians as opposed to cars, I mean, why are we doing this? I mean, I'm just not getting it.
In my opinion, as Janelle Pagets, I agree. And that the study that was done in like 2013, 2014, that was specifically just about the service lane and not the bigger project that it became with the drainage and streetscape improvements. It seemed to be overwhelming community support in favor of it being a pedestrian plaza and not a parking lot anymore. But the decision was made to not move forward with that project and that plan. We're also getting emails. That was the part I wanted to mention. We're also getting emails about this, and a pretty significant amount of them. And it seems like it's about, Swaley's good at the tally and will do it, I'm sure. It seems to be about 4 or 5 to 1 in favor of it not being open to cars and being open to people. So yeah.
I'm really trying to keep an open mind on this, because part of me would like to see it, as a wide sidewalk like the other side of the avenue. And the comments so far are running, I think markedly in favor of that. There are also, of course, comments from various businesses, and the business interests seem to diverge based on whether a business might be a restaurant and want outdoor seating, or where they feel that they really depend on the service lane, not just for parking, but crucially also for deliveries. I think as we look at this, we have to consider how, the recently announced maybe new direction on the bike lines impacts this. If it's going to be a 2-way bike lane, is it likely to go on the other side of the street, or is it likely to go on the east side? Also, the redesign of the service lane, to be sure, it's an improvement over what was there before. I think will be more aesthetically pleasing. It's mostly functional for various uses, hybrid vehicles. It allows more flexibility for pedestrians, for events and things like that. But it's not really optimal for cars or for people. It's kind of a shame that, with the reconstruction, that it's not, if it were to be closed to vehicles, that, it's not been designed in a way that has more vegetation and, greenery and other things to make it a truly nice sidewalk. So anyway, these are, the business interests and some of these other things are what I'm wrestling with, but I'd love to see it either serve pedestrians, or at least, I'm intrigued by the hybrid that, where it could be closed substantial periods of time, like weekends and evenings.
Thanks, Commissioner Nash. Just 2 quick things. The cycle track, the 2-way, that hasn't been decided yet. It's just, DDOT's considering it, and we'll see if that happens. And I guess one thing for the community to realize is also, like, the latest website, and I don't know if that's correct or not. The latest website says that construction on the bike lanes won't be finished until 2028. The service lane is going to open soon. And so we should make a decision about it. 5 years is a very long time. And given DDOT's history, who knows how long the bicycle lanes take. So I think it'd be great if the community wants a particular thing that we're able to provide it, regardless whatever the decision is again, and not have to wait for the bike lanes to come through before we make a decision about it. How about we go, Commissioner Prinzo, is it okay if I let Greg go first? Okay, thank you. Greg, Mr. Grass, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I would support an experiment to see about having the lane open to cars and parking, maybe business hours Monday through Friday, or maybe just all Monday through Friday. But the design is confusing to me. Why you would create a raised surface that's on the same level as the sidewalk seems to me that you're trying to create a plaza walking area, and that cars are really not supposed to be there, or maybe they're only supposed to be there for a special loading or emergency or something. The design that I looked at, it seems to show that there's some kind of, I can't quite tell, you probably all know better, that like there's some kind of like metal poles and fencing or chain or some kind of system. And my concern is that either by accident or intentionally, it creates a situation where someone can just run up on the sidewalk. And I don't understand this design. I don't know why it was thought of. As the person who just spoke before me, Rick Nash, it doesn't look like, the design, how they came up with the design and the logic for it kind of fails me. But I certainly, having lived in the neighborhood and doing a lot of walking around and shopping, I think there's an overwhelming need and use for that area for pedestrians and for streeteries, and for restaurants and just, the ability of the community to use that as kind of a plaza where people can walk and bicycle and, bring kids or dogs or eat out or whatever. And I think, I think that would be a good use. I also talked to a few business owners, and at least one of them was under the impression that they were going to get their outdoor eating areas back after this is completed. So I don't know what they were told or what kind of input the businesses have. The other thing is, the last thing I'll say is just that I know usually businesses have some kind of outdoor permit, and presumably they pay some kind of fee, and the city gets income from that. And maybe under COVID there was a temporary stay of that, which makes sense to me. But going forward, it seems like it could be a revenue source for the city, and that the city would like that and would benefit from it, and hopefully Cleveland Park gets a few of those dollars back as well. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you.
Swale, I can answer a few of those if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Regarding the design, it is intentionally designed to make cars feel uncomfortable in that space, because the thought behind it is then they'll slow down and they'll feel like they don't belong. So that is by design. And this, by the way, is kind of a compromise between having cars there all the time and having it be more pedestrian friendly. There are bollards that are spaced apart that would protect people on the sidewalk, the walking portion of it, from the car, if it goes back to that use. But the sidewalk, its current state it's not ADA accessible. It's not in compliance with the American Disabilities Act. So you can't fit strollers or wheelchairs down it. So that's why it's all being leveled, is to be in compliance with that again. Regarding what you talked about with paying for using this space for streeteries, that program is in the middle of reevaluation and will, I believe by winter, will be formally like redone so that streeteries will have to have the permit and will be paying rent for the use of public space. They also have to have an outdoor seating permit attached to their liquor licenses. So that's an additional tax and fee that would be placed on the restaurants and bars that want to operate streeteries.
Just wanted to show the photo of the rendering of what it might look like. Renderings are always better than what it actually looks like. And you can notice that there's cars parked there, but they've hidden them because anytime a rendering contains a car, it makes it look worse. But yeah, you can kind of see the bollards that Commissioner Pagas was talking about over there. Commissioner Prinzo, you've been very patient, and then we'll go to Kirsten after that.
Not a problem. I just want to go back to the hybrid model, and I think Commissioner Pagas knows where I'm about to go with this, but there is a hybrid model in Navy Yard on Half Street Southeast by Nats Park. And you also run into, and maybe it's just me, but you also might run into people that are not aware that certain streets might be closed to cars on game days or on the weekends for the service lane, and open at other times, and just proceed to walk in the middle of the street, which is what I did. And I will admit I did it. I think, while a hybrid model is a good idea, I just think we have to also look at the practicality of people being like, people are now used to being able to walk in the service lane. And I think if we take that away from people, they're still going to continue, or possibly some people will still continue to just walk in the service lane because that's just what they're used to after 3 years.
No, that's a good point. Thank you. Kirsten, please go ahead.
And I came late, so I'm going to pray I'm not, and I apologize, and pray I'm not repeating anything. Two things. One, you and I spoke about this a little bit, just that, the 95% of Cleveland Park that voted for a pedestrian mall is just making sure that I don't know how it was presented to them, but, I'm sure they're assuming a thriving business storefronts down on that pedestrian mall. So just making sure that everyone understands that we might not be able to do both 100%, but I'm open to all the solutions. And then really the second thing was just, I hope you haven't mentioned this, but is this year round, or would it just be seasonal? I mean, would the streeteries just be for 4 months of the year, and then the rest of the year we could use the drive? Has that been talked about?
We talked about that. I mean, that's a good point to bring up. I think one way to think about it is that it's more than just the streeteries, right? Like it's also about just general pedestrian space. Like the farmers market lasts until when, Cassandra? Like at least December, right?
December, second week in December.
Yeah. And by that time, sometimes it's a little cold to eat outside, although with climate change, who knows? We might be entering some warm winters anyways. Some restaurants have heaters outside, and their enclosed space, makes it so that you can sit outside all year round. But yeah, no, I think it's okay to bring up seasonal stuff. We can definitely think through that process as well. Have that flexibility.
Okay, thanks.
I also think post-COVID, a lot more people are eating outside year-round as opposed to seasonally. But that also goes to the heaters.
Cassandra.
Thank you, Swelling. So what I've heard from the businesses is that it's not the service lane per se, it's the total picture of loss of parking from the bicycle lanes coming in and on top of it. So I think that needs to be considered. And I know that the bicycle lanes are probably coming for 4 or 5 more years, but in 4 or 5 more years, it'll be an issue. I've heard time and time again that the nail salon, for example, people make appointments, they drive over there, they can't find parking, and then they cancel their appointments. So there's a lot of lost revenue from people who try to come to Cleveland Park and can't find parking. And I think it is unreasonable to expect people to pay, I know we've had this conversation, but $25 an hour at the Target parking lot it's not reasonable. Someone's not going to go out to dinner and pay $50 extra or whatever. So I think that's the real issue. It's not the service lane, it's the whole package of parking. So I'm not advocating either way. I really truly am not.
So I guess sorry, Commissioner Paget, did you want to go, or is it okay if I?
I mean, you can go first and then I have a question.
Okay. I mean, I guess one thing is that nothing has to be final, right? Like, we can reevaluate in 5 years. I mean, I think whatever thing we come up with, we're going to have to reevaluate anyways, right? Like, we're going to have to see, like, if we decide we're opening into parking and people are like driving up the sidewalk and we have, like, God forbid, an accident or something, like, we'll have to reevaluate, right? If we decide the other way and it turns out that it's not, it's just not feasible for the business owners to sort of not have that parking available, we can reevaluate. And I think we should. The only comment I'll make about the Target parking lot is I agree, like, $25 parking, yeah, that's expensive, but I also want people to realize that is the cost of parking. Like, when the city provides parking, that comes out of our pockets. Like, the city is paying for that spot. It's not free. So it is coming out of our tax dollars. It is a service that's being provided. And I guess the question here is, how does the community want its tax dollars and its public space spent? Like, would the community, and again, I think that's a fair question, right? And I think, Kirsten, you alluded to it, like, if the community believes in, like, that we really want to support the parking for the business reasons, then yes. But if the community wants to make the decision about, like, how tax dollars are spent, and businesses want to make that decision, because there are businesses that also are advocating on the other end for not having parking there at any time. That's what we're trying to decide here. But I don't want it to make the case that the parking is free if the city provides it. It's not. It's coming out of our pockets, and we should be wary of that. Sorry, Commissioner Faggots, I didn't mean to.
I'm not saying free parking. I'm not, because that's not realistic. But $25 an hour is.
No, but Cassandra, what I'm saying is, if the city provides that parking, and they charge $2 an hour or whatever, that extra $23 comes from our pocket. Like, the real price of parking in this neighborhood is $25 an hour. That is the price of parking. Otherwise, that parking lot would not charge that. So, sorry, Commissioner Paggins, I didn't mean to cut you off for a second time now.
No, but you make a good point, and I'll add on to that before I ask my question, is there's also the cost of operating and maintaining these parking spaces. Pedestrians in a space are a lot less hostile to the infrastructure than a car. So when Swale is talking about tax dollars being spent, the high cost of public parking is felt by all of us who don't even use the space or pay that $25 or pay the $2 to park our car in a 19 by 9 foot, piece of public land. So there's that. My question is, though, have the businesses surveyed their customer base at all to see if they're arriving, like how they're arriving there, casually or not? Like, yes, we hear the one-offs, the customer who couldn't find parking is canceling their appointment, but that doesn't seem to be like on a fairly regular basis. So without like any kind of data point, it's just hearsay, and it's difficult to, and people complain more than they praise. It's difficult to say like what's actually happening. And I feel like, there are peer-reviewed studies that show that businesses overestimate the amount of folks that arrive at their establishment by car, by, what is it, 70 or 80%, Swale?
Oh, I don't remember the number, but yeah, it's there are studies on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think a better survey would be how many people in the District of Columbia didn't go to Cleveland Park because they knew they couldn't find parking. And I'm sorry if it's loud and that's trivia, but and I think that's the question, right? So of the people that showed up, yeah, it was the people that could get there. But as somebody who does drive, there are parts of the city I don't go to because it's very difficult to park. And
that's a choice.
I know, but I'm just saying that I'm not a business owner, right? I'm not a business owner. So these businesses are really struggling right now, and they are telling me for a year and a half parking that they hear complaints about parking all the time. That people who go to All Fired Up pay $25 to park so they can come down to pick up their pottery that they painted and carry it all the way back. So it is definitely an issue. People are driving from all over to go to some of these businesses.
So Cassandra, I'm a little confused because we're discussing this because we know it's an issue. I don't know why you're making it out to be that we're not considering it seriously.
All right, well, I'm done.
Thank you. Greg, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to beat the dead horse of parking too much more, but I do question why there can't be some discussion with the owners of the Sam's parking shop or the parking lot or whatever, and negotiate a more reasonable cost. Like, I don't understand when you say it costs $25 an hour. The meters don't cost $25 an hour, and I don't usually use them because I mostly walk, but if I do need to pay a meter, it's probably for a half an hour, and I don't know what it is, a couple dollars, $4 or $5. But more importantly, that parking lot is usually pretty empty. So it would seem to me they would increase their business if other businesses were also able to validate like Target does or get some kind of discount. I think you'd find a lot of people would be happy to pay $5 an hour or something more reasonable. So I don't know if there can be some dialogue or discussion with that. So that's the first point I wanted to make. The other point I wanted to make is longer term. It would be great if we could think about how do we make Cleveland Park and really the whole city, but since we're in Cleveland Park or these neighborhoods, how do we make them more walkable, more accessible by bike, more transit friendly, and get away from cars, which are an absolutely stupid and inefficient and destructive way to move people around. Now, I do own a car and I do use it, and I do, large shopping trips with the car, but smaller trips I do by walking or riding my bike. And, one of the reasons I live in Cleveland Park is because I don't need a car. There's times when I don't use my car for a week, because anyway, so I know that the businesses can't only rely on people who live in the neighborhood. So I think that's a real conversation. But I also think that to attract more people to the neighborhood or to make the neighborhood more friendly for transit, bicycles, walking, etc., ought to be a goal. It shouldn't, I would like it to be where we don't think about how can we design the neighborhood for cars forever? No, how can we design the neighborhood for a future where cars are much less relevant or important? And I know that's kind of a stretch goal, but I'd like to put it out there. Thanks.
Thanks. And just to clarify, the meter is $3 because the city subsidizes it. So the city actually loses money on that. But Commissioner Nash has a comment, and I agree with that. I agree, Commissioner Nash, with your comment that if this is the way we do want our tax dollars spent, then we should advocate for that. And you're right, the city does provide subsidies to different businesses in different ways in different locations as well. So I think that's a perfectly valid thing. But yeah, it's important to know the trade-offs that we're making.
Yeah, but we subsidize parking and car use more than anything else, including public transportation. So, and I'll get you the numbers.
Kristen, go ahead.
And I am repeating myself a little bit from last time, but Janelle, your question it's still anecdotal, but we do get a number of people who call us up and say, I'm here, but I can't find parking. Thank you anyhow, I'm not coming. I don't know if there's a better way to survey all of our folks, but we definitely hear that quite a lot. I think, Greg, you were saying that, or somebody was saying that about the hair salon as well, but it definitely is happening enough that my coaches really remark on it.
Thank you. All right, we're getting up to 7:50. All right, Warren, go ahead.
Very quickly on this last point. I mean, I think we're deluding ourselves if we're thinking the tiny number of parking spaces that would be provided in the concept design for the service lane is going to make any difference. I mean, there's no one who's going to say, oh, I'm going to go to Spices and I'm going to park at one of the service lanes. The likelihood of getting one of those spots is like 1 in 1,000. I mean, it's just not realistic. I mean, we don't have the kind of I go to Silver Spring, I drive there, I go to AFI movie theater. They've got these massive parking lots that for 2,000 cars that are free on weekends. That's parking and you can count on it. The idea that this handful of spaces is going to make any difference and drive customers to the Cleveland Park Business District for these handful of spaces, that's delusional. I mean, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Warren. Yeah, 20 spaces. It is, it is worth thinking about, but it's good we're having this conversation because I think it's important. It's important, I think, to sort of understand what's going on, what the options are, and what the trade-offs are, right? And the good thing is that we as a community can make an impact on this and can submit comments and try and advocate for what we think is best. Wonderful. So there'll be more opportunities to comment. We're not taking this issue up this month. So there will be at least one whole other Planning, Zoning, Housing, Economic Development Committee meeting where this will be discussed. There'll also be another Transportation Committee meeting where this will be discussed. And I think next month we can start sort of looking at what kind of decisions we have in front of us and trying to make them. And I think one really good thing I think that came out of this meeting was I think we should realize that we're not making a final decision, right? Like this is whatever we decide here, either way, even if we go for, sort of either decision we make, like we can always revisit it. It's not like they're going to construct it in a way that we can't go back. This is, this is hopefully something that we can keep talking about and not feel like that it's catastrophic and that if we decide one way or the other, we're stuck with it forever. So wonderful. Thank you all. Thanks for that robust discussion. So we have 7 minutes. I didn't mean to slow people down. If people did have anything else they wanted to say, you're more than welcome to. If not, I'd like to, is Matthias still here on the, yeah, I'd like to just quickly discuss maybe the bus. So one thing, Matthias, is definitely keep track of the bus plan. And once that plan comes out, if there's aspects of it that we can advocate on, I think you should definitely email your commissioner, email any of us, and we'll definitely put it on the agenda for commenting on at the next meeting. I can tell you that it's always difficult. One good thing though this year is that WMATA has been moved away from Phil Mendelssohn's packet to, I think it's with Charles Allen now, which is good because Phil Mendelsohn never responded to any requests for WMATA at all. And Charles Allen at least seems like that he's willing to entertain and listening to the community. So I think that's a good sign. So there might be that this is a chance for us to advocate through council as well. It's also something I think that we can also bring up to Councilmember Fruman if we need to as well.
Yeah, maybe I can say something there. At first, actually, in the meantime, I looked up the ANC boundaries and I realized I'm actually not in ANC 3C anymore. I think the boundaries may have changed because before there was actually business on my street, which was done in your committee. So I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. And I saw 3C is only bounded by Wisconsin Avenue.
No, that's okay because a lot of people in the current ANC depend on Wisconsin Avenue.
About this better bus plan, I don't give much for it, I have to say, because I mean, you can make all the nice plans and all have the good ideas. Actually, I have nothing against the Wisconsin Avenue line, how it is conceived. It's just how it is done.
Yep.
That they don't seem to be able to hold on to a schedule. Also,
Yep.
bus stops do not print the current schedule. It's just amazing. The schedule is printed without a date. And you look sometimes at the WMATA's website. I mean, there are new bus schedules every half year or whatsoever, but the bus stops are not keeping track, so to speak, are not keeping up with this. So you don't also know what's going on. Even the electronic, I don't know how they managed to do that. The real arrival time. This is in our day and age with the technology available, not that difficult. Even that is wrong very often. I mean, it's just, I mean, this gets me, what all doesn't work there. And in particular, near the start of a line in Friendship Heights, when it should be easy, you know, but then also the whole system. I've never seen a city where so many buses run not in service. Mm-hmm. That means basically nobody looked at this. Where do we need a bus? When can we make this a little bit more optimal? I mean, some people should also work on optimization of transport in some way. But okay, I think we're getting close to the finishing line, and I will keep your comments in mind. I certainly aware of this Better Bus plan, and I have subscribed to it. I get their emails. I have commented. Perfect. So I have all done
That's
that.
Great.
You know?
And you know, like, yeah, even so I put the ANC 3A website in the chat, so you're welcome to contact your new commissioner. But you know, we should pass something. If they pass something, we'll pass something similar. Like we don't discriminate by boundaries. Our ANC's taken out to the city of District of Columbia, so we're supposed to help everyone. So we're so happy you joined. And you know, and you put this on our radar, so we're gonna think about it. Also, it's unfortunate that one of our committee members, Naiwa, isn't here because he has brought up all these issues again and again, and so we definitely have like a record of thinking about these things.
I just want to add that we need more advocates for things like this, like better bus service. We get what we pay for, and also squeaky wheels get the grease. Historically, yeah, there hasn't been a lot of folks advocating for better bus service where it needs to go. And it's unfortunate because it could really improve everyone's lives and transportation environment. And it's just, yeah. So we need more squeaky wheels. The bus isn't glamorous. I take the bus. I love the bus. So I'm with you in this fight for better bus service. And no, mass transit should never be something that's revenue generating for a city. It should be a service, just like subsidizing on-street public parking spaces for single-use vehicles are a service.
That's a very good point. If the same amount of money was spent on public transport as on parking, I think this would be a very nice situation, but we are far away from that.
Even half of it would be very nice. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Matthias, and yeah, and let's stay in touch, and let's figure out how we might do this. So, we're approaching 8 p.m. and what I propose is we discuss 34th Street next time. On how to do traffic calming over there, and because I think there's some history over there that we need to go through and stuff, and so I'll attach some documents to the meeting and stuff next time. But it would be good to also think about passing something for 34th Street in May. I think that would be a no-brainer as well. So wonderful. And Commissioner Nash, thank you for your comment in the chat as well. That yeah, we should definitely be looking at those bus lines. Any final comments from anyone? Anyone would like to bring up anything else? All right. Thank you all. I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Paget said about squeaky wheels. This is, you know, this is the way to get anything from the city, is you just have to talk, tell them, and you know, and we're here to squeak with you. So thank you for joining. This is public service when you join these things, and it's public service when you email us. So we really appreciate it. It really helps us do the right thing. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. Yeah, and we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.